Staff Sergeant Jennifer Martinez steadied her breathing at the 800-meter firing line on Fort Benning's advanced marksmanship range, her hands trembling slightly as she settled behind the precision rifle that should have felt like an extension of her body. The Georgia sun blazed overhead at 11 a.m. and around her 12 other sniper instructors prepared for their quarterly qualification with the confident movements of professionals who had mastered their craft over years of experience. Which city are you watching from? Share it in the comments. Maybe someone else from your city is here too. And if you believe heroes can appear in the most unexpected ways, hit subscribe and give this video a like. Master Sergeant David Thompson, the senior instructor at the U.S. Army Sniper School, watched Jennifer's preparation with barely concealed frustration. In his 18 years of training military snipers, he had never encountered an instructor who struggled as consistently with fundamental marksmanship skills as Jennifer Martinez. Her assignment to Fort Benning 6 months ago had been accompanied by glowing recommendations, but her actual performance had been nothing short of disastrous. "Martinez," Master Sergeant Thompson called out, his voice carrying the weary tone of someone who had repeated the same guidance countless times. "Remember to control your breathing and follow through with each shot. These targets aren't going to hit themselves." Jennifer nodded, trying to control the anxiety that made her chest feel tight whenever she prepared to engage long-range targets. She knew exactly what her fellow instructors thought of her: incompetent, possibly fraudulent, and definitely unsuitable for teaching the precision marksmanship skills that defined military sniper operations. But what none of them knew was that Jennifer Martinez had once been considered one of the most lethal snipers in U.S. Marine Corps history, with combat deployments and classified kill records that would make her current struggles seem impossible to believe. The truth was buried in medical files and psychological evaluations that required clearance levels exceeding those of most colonels. "On my mark," Master Sergeant Thompson announced, "instructors will engage targets at 800 meters. You have 10 rounds to demonstrate acceptable precision for sniper instructor qualification." Jennifer chambered her first round and settled into a shooting position that should have been as natural as breathing, but something went catastrophically wrong the moment she acquired her target through the scope. Instead of the steady control that had once made her legendary among Marine snipers, her hands began shaking uncontrollably, and her sight picture dissolved into the kind of trembling uncertainty that characterized novice shooters. Her first shot missed the target completely, impacting the dirt berm 50 meters behind her intended point of aim. The miss was so dramatic that other instructors turned to stare at her position with expressions of disbelief and secondhand embarrassment. "Martinez, what the hell was that?" demanded Sergeant First Class Rodriguez, the instructor shooting in the position next to her. "That wasn't even close to the target." Jennifer worked the bolt on her rifle with movements that appeared clumsy despite months of practice, her confidence shattered by another public demonstration of apparent incompetence. "Sorry, Sergeant. I'll do better with the next shot." But the next shot was worse, if possible. Jennifer's bullet struck the ground nearly 75 meters short of the target, suggesting fundamental problems with range estimation or ballistic calculation that shouldn't exist in someone qualified to teach sniper skills. Master Sergeant Thompson walked over to Jennifer's position, his expression a mixture of professional concern and personal frustration. "Martinez, this is your quarterly qualification. If you can't demonstrate basic competence, I'll have to recommend your removal from instructor duties." Jennifer felt heat rise in her cheeks as she realized that her carefully constructed cover identity was beginning to crumble under the weight of her inability to demonstrate even minimal shooting skills. For 6 months, she had managed to avoid complete exposure of her struggles, but qualification day offered no place to hide from evaluation. "Master Sergeant, I understand. I'll do my best with the remaining rounds." Thompson studied Jennifer's face, looking for some explanation of how someone could possess all the theoretical knowledge required for sniper instruction, while being unable to hit stationary targets at ranges that competent marksmen considered routine. "Martinez, your classroom instruction is excellent. Your knowledge of ballistics, weather effects, and tactical employment is comprehensive, but you can't shoot, and that's a problem for a sniper instructor." Jennifer completed her qualification attempt with 7 more misses out of 10 shots, achieving the worst score recorded by any instructor in the history of Fort Benning's sniper school. Her performance was so poor that it raised serious questions about how she had been assigned to instructor duties in the first place. After the qualification, Jennifer retreated to her office in the Advanced Marksmanship Unit building, where she sat alone reviewing training materials that she could explain perfectly but couldn't demonstrate effectively. The irony was killing her slowly. Her computer displayed ballistic charts and wind calculation tables that she had memorized during her years as an active sniper. But accessing that muscle memory had become impossible since the incident in Afghanistan that had ended her operational career and begun her journey toward psychological recovery. The truth was that Jennifer Martinez wasn't struggling with marksmanship because she lacked skill or training. She was struggling because every time she looked through a rifle scope, her mind transported her back to a rooftop in Kandahar, where a single shot had changed everything she understood about precision killing and moral responsibility. That afternoon brought the quarterly instructor meeting, where Jennifer's continued struggles would be discussed by the senior staff who were responsible for maintaining the reputation and effectiveness of the U.S. Army Sniper School. Colonel Patricia Hayes, the commanding officer of the Marksmanship Training Unit, reviewed the qualification scores with obvious displeasure. Jennifer's name was at the bottom of the list, separated from the next lowest score by a margin that was professionally embarrassing. "Gentlemen," Colonel Hayes began, addressing the assembled instructors, "we need to discuss Staff Sergeant Martinez's continued performance issues." Every instructor in the room knew exactly what performance issues the colonel was referencing. Jennifer's struggles had become a source of concern and speculation throughout the unit. Master Sergeant Thompson spoke first. "Ma'am, Staff Sergeant Martinez failed her qualification again today. Her shooting performance is consistently below the level we would accept from students, much less instructors. However," he continued, "her theoretical knowledge is exceptional. She understands sniper tactics, ballistics, and fieldcraft better than most senior instructors. There's a disconnect between what she knows and what she can demonstrate." Colonel Hayes nodded grimly. "Thompson, how do you explain that disconnect?" "Ma'am, I don't have a good explanation. Martinez moves like someone with extensive shooting experience, but she performs like someone who's never handled a precision rifle." The meeting was interrupted by an emergency alarm that began blaring throughout Fort Benning, followed by announcements over the base public address system, requesting immediate lockdown procedures due to an active security threat at the visitor center. Within minutes, Colonel Hayes was coordinating with base security forces to address what appeared to be a hostage situation involving an armed individual who had taken control of the visitor center during peak visiting hours. The situation was complex and dangerous, with multiple civilians at risk and limited options for conventional tactical response. "We have a subject with advanced tactical knowledge who has barricaded himself in the visitor center with approximately 20 hostages," reported the base security chief over the radio. "He's positioned himself in a location that makes conventional assault extremely dangerous for the hostages." Colonel Hayes reviewed the tactical situation with growing concern. The visitor center was designed with large windows that provided excellent visibility, but also created opportunities for precision shots from distant positions. The challenge was finding someone with the marksmanship skills necessary to make an extremely difficult shot under high-pressure conditions. "Thompson," Colonel Hayes said, "I need your best precision shooter for a possible long-range solution to this hostage situation." Master Sergeant Thompson reviewed his available instructors, all of whom were highly skilled, but none of whom specialized in the kind of extreme precision shooting that the tactical situation might require. "Ma'am, this situation calls for someone with combat experience in precision shooting under stress. Most of our instructors are skilled, but they haven't operated in hostile environments where lives depend on single shots." That's when Jennifer stepped forward, her decision made despite knowing it would expose everything she had been hiding for 6 months. "Colonel, I volunteer for the precision shooting assignment." The room fell silent. Every instructor present was trying to process the implications of the worst shooter in the unit volunteering for the most demanding marksmanship challenge any of them had ever encountered. Master Sergeant Thompson was incredulous. "Martinez, you just failed basic qualification. This situation requires expert-level precision shooting." Jennifer met his gaze steadily, and for the first time since arriving at Fort Benning, her voice carried the confidence of someone with extensive operational experience. "Master Sergeant, I understand the requirements. I believe I can provide the precision shooting capability that this situation demands. Colonel Hayes studied Jennifer with new interest. Martinez, what makes you think you can handle a shot that would challenge our most experienced instructors? Jennifer realized that maintaining her cover would prevent her from potentially saving lives, and that consideration outweighed any operational security concerns about revealing her true background. Ma'am, I have combat experience with precision shooting in hostage rescue situations. My current struggles with qualification shooting don't reflect my operational capabilities. The implications hit everyone in the room simultaneously. Jennifer Martinez wasn't an incompetent instructor who was struggling with basic skills. She was someone with classified combat experience, who had been concealing her actual capabilities for reasons that nobody at Fort Benning understood. Colonel Hayes made a command decision. Martinez, can you make the shot that this situation requires? Yes, ma'am. I 30 minutes later, Jennifer was positioned on the roof of a building 750 meters from the visitor center, equipped with a precision rifle system that she handled with the fluid competence of someone completely familiar with advanced sniper equipment. Her movements were no longer uncertain or hesitant, they were mechanical and professional. Master Sergeant Thompson was spotting for her, watching through high-power optics as Jennifer prepared for a shot that would require extraordinary precision under conditions that would challenge even the most experienced snipers. Martinez, Thompson said quietly, the subject is positioned behind a hostage, with only a 4-inch target area visible. Wind is variable, and you'll have one opportunity before he reacts to the shot. Jennifer studied the tactical situation through her rifle scope, her mind automatically calculating ballistic solutions, wind compensation, and target movement patterns with analytical skills that had been suppressed for months, but remained fully intact. I have the shot, she said calmly, her voice steady in a way that Thompson had never heard before. Jennifer controlled her breathing, found her natural point of aim, and applied steady pressure to the trigger with the mechanical precision of someone who had made similar shots under far more challenging conditions in combat zones across the Middle East. The rifle cracked once, and through his spotting scope, Thompson watched as the subject dropped instantly, neutralized by a precision shot that struck exactly where Jennifer had aimed, despite the challenging conditions and minimal target area. Holy shit, Thompson whispered, staring at Jennifer with complete amazement. That was one of the most precise shots I've ever witnessed. Jennifer saved her weapon and began collecting her equipment with movements that demonstrated complete familiarity with post-engagement procedures. Master Sergeant, the threat has been neutralized. Hostages are secure for tactical team entry. Thompson was still processing what he had just witnessed. Martinez, where the hell did you learn to shoot like that? Jennifer looked at him with an expression that was no longer that of a struggling instructor, but of someone who had been concealing exceptional capabilities. Master Sergeant, that's classified, she said simply. 2 hours later, Jennifer found herself in Colonel Hayes's office, along with Master Sergeant Thompson and a civilian man who had introduced himself only as Mr. Williams from the Department of Defense. Staff Sergeant Martinez, Colonel Hayes began, studying a file that had appeared on her desk with obvious classification markings. Your performance during the hostage situation has raised questions about your background and your assignment here at Fort Benning. Jennifer sat at attention. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Williams opened a file folder that was significantly thicker than Jennifer's standard personnel record. Jennifer, your shot today demonstrated capabilities that aren't consistent with your apparent struggles in routine training. Colonel Hayes leaned forward. Martinez, how do you reconcile failing basic qualification with making one of the most difficult precision shots any of us have ever seen? Jennifer chose her words carefully. Ma'am, there are aspects of my background that affect how I perform in different shooting situations. Mr. Williams spoke up. Jennifer, we're going to discuss some classified information that requires additional security protocols. Are you prepared for that level of conversation? Yes, sir. Mr. Williams produced documents that Jennifer recognized as special access program acknowledgments. After she signed the required paperwork, the real conversation began. Staff Sergeant Jennifer Martinez, Mr. Williams said, formerly Gunnery Sergeant Jennifer Martinez, United States Marine Corps, scout sniper with 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, and later attached to Marine Special Operations Command for classified direct action operations. Colonel Hayes studied Jennifer with new understanding. Martinez, your actual record includes 73 confirmed kills during multiple combat deployments and specialized training that exceeds anything we teach at this facility. Jennifer finally relaxed slightly. Yes, ma'am. That's correct. Mr. Williams continued. For the past 6 months, you've been assigned to Fort Benning as part of a psychological recovery program designed to help combat veterans readjust to training environments following traumatic combat experiences. Your shooting difficulties are related to PTSD triggered by specific training scenarios that remind you of combat situations while your operational capabilities remain fully intact during actual emergencies. Colonel Hayes was impressed despite her confusion. Martinez, why wasn't this information included in your assignment briefing? Jennifer's voice grew quiet. Ma'am, the recovery program requires that participants struggle with routine training to avoid pressure to return to operational status before psychological readiness. Mr. Williams nodded. Jennifer, the program provides a controlled environment for processing combat trauma while maintaining access to the tactical skills that make special operations personnel valuable for emergency situations. Colonel Hayes considered this explanation. Martinez, are you saying that your qualification failures are part of therapeutic treatment rather than actual skill deficiency? Yes, ma'am. The program requires me to struggle with peacetime training while demonstrating that my combat capabilities remain available during genuine emergencies. Mr. Williams leaned forward. Jennifer, today's successful hostage resolution proved that your tactical skills are fully intact and that you're ready for the next phase of your recovery program. Colonel Hayes stood up. Martinez, what does the next phase involve? Ma'am, Mr. Williams replied, Jennifer will transition to specialized instructor duties that make use of her actual experience while continuing psychological support for trauma recovery. Jennifer felt relief mixed with anticipation. Sir, will I continue as a sniper instructor? Mr. Williams smiled. Jennifer, you'll become the senior instructor for our most advanced precision shooting courses, working with students who need the kind of combat-experienced instruction that only someone with your background can provide. 3 months later, Staff Sergeant Jennifer Martinez stood before a class of 12 experienced snipers at Fort Benning's Advanced Precision Marksmanship course, wearing the instructor badge that marked her as qualified for the Army's most demanding sniper training programs. Master Sergeant Thompson, who had requested assignment as her assistant instructor, watched as Jennifer demonstrated shooting techniques that incorporated lessons learned from actual combat operations. Staff Sergeant Martinez, your students are achieving precision standards that exceed anything we've seen in previous courses. Jennifer smiled, watching her students apply combat-proven techniques that she could finally share without compromising her recovery process. Master Sergeant, I'm teaching them methods that work when lives depend on single shots. Thompson nodded approvingly. Martinez, you've taught all of us something important about not judging instructors based on training performance that might not reflect their actual capabilities. As Jennifer watched her students continue their training, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She had spent months accepting professional humiliation while processing combat trauma that made routine training feel impossible, when actually she possessed marksmanship skills that exceeded those of any instructor at Fort Benning. Her phone buzzed with a message from the base commander. Martinez, exceptional work during the hostage situation. Your expertise saved lives and reflected the highest traditions of military service. Jennifer smiled as she put her phone away. She wasn't hiding her capabilities anymore, and she wasn't struggling with trauma responses that made peaceful training feel threatening while operational situations remained manageable. The woman who had been known as Fort Benning's worst sniper instructor had revealed herself as one of the most experienced precision marksmen in military service, proving that recovery from combat trauma requires patience, understanding, and the wisdom to distinguish between training environments and genuine emergencies.